Okay, camera I am using is a Canon EOS. It's a relatively small camera. It's R100, but small
Ah,
camera. Only like I have like two lenses, an 18 to 45 millimeter, and then I think another one maybe 35 to 200 millimeter. But small camera, easy to use. Wasn't the one that I used to get the total eclipse though, but the one that took those photos was something I borrowed from my school, but I don't know exactly what photos, what type of camera that was. But let me see if I can at least find a couple photos that I took on the camera that I own.
are you using the same camera for your animations?
No, I'm using my phone. Um,
Oh,
I would use the patience and actually use the camera I own, but I don't want to like try and experiment with that because I've been doing this on a phone for a long time, and well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah, I agree with that. Any camera that isn't completely a potato works for creating stop motion content. Some people like to use, for an example, webcam to make their animations because it's easy to connect to your computer and use Dragon Frame to as alongside with it. So, but I like to stick with mirrorless cameras
That a
because
mirrorless camera is what I own, so maybe I should start working on it. These are just a couple pictures I took on it. We rarely get snow in Texas where I'm from, so this was earlier this year, one of the rare days that we actually got snow. I just brought the camera out and took photos of it.
hmm, I
But yeah,
bet.
funny thing about me doing all this on the phone, um, I didn't learn until actually a couple months ago that there is a manual mode on Stop Motion Studio that you can use to actually adjust your camera's ISO and shutter speed as well as manually adjusting the focus. I ran into a problem while working on my Mars film. There was one very technical shot where the leader of the Mars ship, he's like pointing out his hand and then ordering a signal to somebody like a couple of inches behind him. And I was using only the auto mode, so I couldn't tap on different parts of the screen to point where my focus was at. Then I learned manual mode, and I'm like, this changes everything. Because there have only been two films so far that I've used manual mode on. There's that Mars film, and then there's the one I'm working on right now. So definitely a big change in how my videos are gonna look, but I'm just surprised that I'm learning this now, and I haven't learned it like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you when I started learning the aspects of different camera settings. I also used autofocus until what was the last video? I think I started using manual focus in Lego oil rig disaster, so I was also using so-called the wrong method for a long time. Then I realized, well, oh shit, manual focus is way better, way
Yeah,
better.
I
And
did notice that oil rig disaster was kind of the first video of yours I noticed where everything looked just a bit different than all the other videos I was used to. And at first I just thought it was the way the animation looked, but now that you say that, yeah, using manual focus definitely changes a lot because suddenly your characters look more clean and detailed in frame than before.
yeah, and the image doesn't like jitter, like go in different focus depths. It like stays constant, and that's basically the best aspect of using manual focus, and that needs to be, in my opinion, the one of the number one rules of using the right camera settings. Use manual focus.
Hmm.
That's very important.
I want to talk about probably my favorite shot that I've seen you make in your videos, and it comes from the Lego assassination attempt video. There's one there's one shot that just like really stood out to me. I guess the way that it was set up and the way that it played out, probably the one shot where Raimo is hit by the car and just flies across the screen and hits the pole. I thought the choreography of the character in that shot was just so impressive, as well as the way the set looked, how the little light strips on the car illuminated everything. And as well to the point where you could not tell at all there was any rigging that was holding Raimo up as he was getting hit by the car. Looking at that shot right there, I was just like, this is so cool and so funny. I want to know how to do shots like that. And really, that takes so much patience that probably took you like 20 or 30 minutes to animate, probably longer.
Yeah, I also like that part because there's actually one rule that I want to enforce for stop motion creators. Use sticky tag and surfaces so as long as you can until you start using rigging to make Lego minifigures fly, because using different riggings for flying characters or objects is very simple and easy to use when the camera is stationary and not moving. But like for an example, in the Lego assassination attempt, when Raimo gets hit by Chevrolet Impala, that there's panning. The camera pans from the alley entrance to the pole where Raimo hits, and
That's another thing I
that if
wanted to
you're
point out. Yeah, the camera panning.
and if I were to use rigging on that part, then that means basically I need to create an empty slate underneath the action so I can hide the rigging itself. And that I've done it. I've done it couple of times, and I've decided that that takes a lot of time and patience. And there's actually a few loopholes to make it easier. Like for an example, if the flying object is light enough, you can just use a string or something very invisible and to keep it in place. But that's not very easy to control, and it sways back and forth. And it's string is not the first option to use as a way to make things fly. But yeah, use the sticky tag as long as you can, and then start building the rigging system.
Mm-hmm. There was one shot that I recently worked on for the Demon of Old Andy Bridge where the character I voice comes across this campsite and there's all these like cult followers of the Goat Man going to attack him. One of them throws a butcher knife at him and another throws an axe. The way I had the lighting set up in that scene, I had a basically bar of light that shone an eerie orange color that I just constantly kept moving around as I took pictures to make it look like there was a fire crackling. So in those shots where the butcher knife is flying, sometimes I would take two pictures of the shot, one where the butcher knife is in frame and then one of just that where I wouldn't be moving the light. So then when I'm erasing out the rigging that holds up the knife, I'll have the same lighting for that shot, so you won't see a clear line that shows that I moved a light during that shot. So then again, that wasn't really a challenge. That was just something pretty simple, but I have run into rigging issues where the light's not the same or like the shot doesn't look the same. And for this film in particular, I'm actually using a lot more inspiration from your work, like how the characters move their arms around and express more body language, like breaking the arm off from the character and using the same colored clay as their shirt that they're wearing to hold the arm up. And I started doing that a little bit in the first two films, but I really started doing it more in this one because I've been working faster, but also I started this way before a deadline that I have for an October release, so I know I have enough time to make the characters more expressive.
Hmm. imagine if Lego Lego designed a minifigure that had ball joints in armpit so you can move the arms more freely. I know, like for an example, Lego has done that with um, Bionicle series and similar series like that, that they use
But
ball
those aren't
joints for.
minifigure size.
Yeah, exactly. Those are not minifigure size, so it will be it would be revolutionary if Lego created a ball joints for standard minifigures. That would be great.
Unfortunately, I think that'd make Legos more expensive if they did that.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, stop motion artists can just use the same technique they've been doing, and everybody knows this is what they're doing, but it still looks good. But anyway,
Yeah,
here's
there's
the
only
you
yeah, there's
first. You
actually
first.
just yeah, thanks. There's one downside of using um, sticky tag in for the arms because it gets pushed inside the minifigure torso, and if you push too much clay in there, it's going to break in half at some point because you have the legs 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 attached, and then there's just too much pressure in that torso, and it just breaks. And that has happened to me quite some time. So you need to be careful with the sticky tag.
I've been using just modeling clay that never dries when using it, so I've also run into that problem where I just have clay stuffed inside the figure. Sometimes I dig it out, sometimes I think, well, this stuff never dries. If it just eventually fills up, then I won't have a problem with it sticking a little bit in the figure torso after I'm animating with the arm, so then I won't have to go through the trouble of digging it all out. But what I was gonna say is, um, here's the shot where I first used manual focus and just manual everything. This was the very first shot I used it in because I was running into that problem with the autofocus and I needed a way to fully control it.
Yeah, I see it where if you had tried to enforce the autofocus, it wouldn't be possible because there's just so many details in the background, and I bet phone's autofocus would just automatically focus there on the background. But yeah, this is great example of the benefits of using manual focus. Looks very clean.
Mm-hmm. This was around while I was halfway done with this film, and there were a lot more other shots where it had to do close ups with these figures. So once I learned this technique, the rest of the shots in the movie look so good. In fact, many shots before this specific shot used manual focus, but because of the chronology of how I animated it, those shots were made after this one. That's another thing with stop motion as well. Back in the day, I would do everything in chronological order. That way, because I improvised and didn't have a script, so I didn't know what I'd be doing next. So I just thought, if we just do everything in order, we'll get to the part that I want to. So then when I started writing a script, that's when I started animating everything out of order. Like when I'd have more complicated sets built, I would animate all the scenes with one specific set first, then move on, build another one, do all the scenes with that set, and then rinse and repeat. So, a lot of the film so far is being made out of order to parts where I might eventually work on the ending before all the other complicated shots, which I might as well bring up right now to the viewers. Juho actually makes a cameo in this movie. Just throwing that out there. While I was working on this film, shortly after the wet floor sign video, I got in contact with him on Instagram, and I was just starting to work on this movie, so I thought it would be so cool now that I have contact with you. It would be so cool if I had a cameo for this character. So I just quickly wrote in a quick Raimo cameo into it, and now Raimo makes a cameo at the end of this movie. So you should all definitely see this movie when it's finished and just get that little cameo.
Have you already filmed the Raimo part?
No. And recently I did actually go and buy a figure for the character because I didn't know exactly what head I needed to look for. I just went to my nearest Lego store and just said, "Do you guys have like a Santa Claus head?" I didn't know the head came from a gnome character, as you mentioned earlier. But I did find some substitutes that look similar to Rimo and actually have the smile, so I will be working on that at some point, so don't worry. In fact, I plan on putting a lot of time into that to make Raimo's animation more complicated than the other characters to just show the different universe interaction. Like, Raimo's gonna have a lot more arm and head movements and leg movements as well. Meanwhile, my characters are gonna be more kind of stationary and not as expressive, so yeah, I'm just gonna make a clear animation difference into that to show where this character came from, if anybody recognizes it.
By the way, out of curiosity, do you first record voice lines and then animate, or do you first animate and then record the lines? Which way do you prefer?
That's a good question. I always like to edit the audio first and then animate, because there'd be the other films I've done months before the entire film would be finished. I would have all of the audio edited, so I'd pretty much have the entire film set up. Then I'd break apart the clips and then animate on top of that. So as of right now, your cameo scene is already edited with the audio. In fact, I was smiling the entire time working on it because I'm like, I can't believe I'm putting this character into my movie and his actual voice actor is in it. So that was really fun to edit the audio for.
Yeah, I think that I started using the technique of first recording the lines and then animating when I got myself the Dragon Frame software. It was such a revolutionary thing for me to start using that technique, because in Dragon Frame it's much way funnier to and better to listen the line and then animate using that as a reference, and it's just so much better. And actually the wet floor video was the first one where I used this method, and all the videos before that were used by making first animation and then the lines, but I'm not going back to that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier and really if you keep replaying the line, then you have it in your head how long this shot needs to be and what the character needs to be exactly doing to sync up with that. So it's definitely a really easy technique to do that I'm surprised I haven't learned until like a few years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's an basically animation industry standard to first record the lines and then the animation. I think I bet everyone does it.
Yeah, Disney
Like
does it, DreamWorks does it, all those other
yeah,
animation companies they do it.
it's great.
That was all the questions I had. Um, let's see, what else? I guess I could bring up what I was hinting at earlier when my little Lego Do You Copy series first film was completed in early 2021. It started in early 2020. And it took about a year to finish because I was working off and on the different. Because the game has four endings, so I wanted to make four separate videos about it into one big film. Um, the game creators actually made a sequel to that game where it had a different storyline, and in fact, I couldn't really follow their storyline well, so I just kind of put different elements from it and just made my own story off of it. And that was completed probably in early 2024. But now that I'm working on the Demon of Old Andy Bridge, there's one line in that film that actually references the events of the second Do You Copy film I made. And so recently, that just gave me an idea. What if I made a fourth movie where it tied these two universes together?
Mm.
And so I've come up with a story concept that I might need to tell my friend Fetch about because he's one of my closest collaborators. Basically, the park in the first film where all these events happen, the goat man, there isn't just one of them. There's like a whole species of them. And in the Demon of Old Andy Bridge, the three main characters basically just come across one of those different species of goat man. So the main character from the old Lego Do You Copy films, he gets in contact with these three ghost hunters saying, "We need you guys' help. We know you've managed to kill a goat man. Now we need to try and get rid of a whole species of them that are contained in this park, and if we don't hurry up fast, they're gonna take out all the animals in there and they're gonna break out from the park and they're gonna start rampaging across the nation." So it's gonna be kind of like the movie Rampage, but with just the goat man. Just a bunch of goat men. So I just have the concept in my head right now. I might start writing the script for it soon, but yeah, I'm just feel like that I'm running out of ideas for films because I really love to do stop motion, and it's just refreshing to finally get a new, fresh idea popping into your head and thinking this would be so cool to make. I should start working on it soon. But of course, I might not start working on that film until sometime next year because
Mm.
these other three films I've been working on once per year. But yeah, so that's a teaser for everybody. There might be a fourth movie.
Yeah, many creators struggle at some point with ideas. I many times get the same situation that I've ran out of ideas what to do next. But I think the best ideas for different videos come from out from the bloom. Usually I get them when I can't get sleep and I'm just lying on the bed and my brain is going in super mode and thinking all kinds of different wacky scenarios. Actually, many of my video ideas come from that brainstorming at 3 a.m. basically, and you just need to have creative breaks and the ideas will find you, I think.
Mm-hmm. It just takes one of those blissful moments where your mind is not really swimming. Because I have ADHD, so my brain is constantly flowing with like different things that I've like short-term memories or long-term memories. And so when there are those random moments where like nothing's replaying in my head, that just gives me enough space to just come up with something new and think, this sounds like a good idea. I could build off of it and there's potential from this.
Yeah, and I've actually started doing little post-it notes on my night table. Basically, when I get different ideas, I write them down so I don't forget them in the morning. And basically, actually, I just took one post-it note that I wrote a few nights ago. Basically, a video idea for Postman Raimo, and basically that's basically the children's show Postman Pat.
I've seen one
Have
episode
you?
of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically that, but with Raimo. And the opening song is basically Raimo's version about it. And I don't know, I might get a little copyright issues with the name. I have to be careful so I don't get any trouble. But that's just one of many ideas I have lying around.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to just make those videos a bit more low key from all like the big budget disaster videos you've been working on. Especially some of your remakes to older ones like the upcoming train catastrophe. That one looks good, and I'm expecting it's probably going to be longer than the older one. Um, don't know what the disaster is going to look like though, but guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, actually, that video is like a big. It's like a nostalgic trip to older days because I use so many old Lego City sets and other Lego sets in that video, which I haven't been using that much during the past last years on my different videos. I just want to use my old Lego sets because I have them lying around and I want to use that rain video as a one one example.
One thing that I've definitely noticed a good difference between your videos and my videos, you have you always have a like a solid blue background of paper on a wall for your sets, and you don't really use any green screen. Well, my videos basically take the 90s film approach. I use so many green screens and so many different backgrounds that I digitally draw or take a real life image that I took while like on a vacation trip. So I really like how you're sticking with more traditional stuff rather than obvious blue screens to where there's the pixel distortions in the edges. So
Yeah,
that's something I wanted to point out.
yeah. Actually, the blue screen that I'm using, that's basically a great solution because if you're going to, let's say, replace that blue screen with some clouds or a landscape, that can also work with the blue screen because very often Legos are usually with green plates and the Lego heads are quite yellow, so the green screen wouldn't fit with fit with that. So if I like to use the blue paper because there's two ways you can either replace it with a other background later in post production, or you can just leave it as blue because blue works. Blue sky is blue and blue works.
hmm I would have used blue screen for this movie, but the thing is, two of my main characters wear a lot of blue, so it wouldn't really work too well. So I'm just sticking with the green screen, fixing it as best as I can so the yellow of their faces don't blend in too well. But I'm definitely improving as I go along, and especially since I'm gonna start experimenting with physical claymation. That I really like to challenge myself when making videos to the point where I'm just sitting there while working on it, just like, why do I make myself do this? Why do I push myself to do it? But I always know the more that I push myself to do these things, the better it's gonna turn out. Like, I have a very complicated shot in mind where it could take me over an hour to do like 10 seconds of footage for this one shot. At the end of it, it's going to turn out better than you expected if you put that time and effort into it. So there are times where I just like to give myself a little challenge to make at least one part of the film look a little more unique than everything else so that film's not running too slow at a pace or the shots don't look too boring and flat. Just sometimes it's good to give yourself a little challenge like, okay, for this shot, let's try this out and see how it looks.
Yeah, I agree totally. Basically, each new project that you start making, it's like a great opportunity to challenge yourself and push to the new limits. And always, I always like to look back to my older videos and try to think how can I improve these mistakes that I've done, and are there any new methods that I can make this difficult shot differently? So I always that basically motivates me to do more animations because I want to challenge myself to do something new and bigger. And it would be very boring if there wasn't a challenge. There always needs to be a creative challenge with new each project.
Mm-hmm. One other new technique that I've been learning, well, not really learning, but started using, is different lighting effects because for a long time I only had this one big ring light that you could either make a cool color or a well, it was also RGB, so you can make it different colors, but I always stuck to one white light. And since it's a ring light, there isn't enough like details in the shadows, so all my sets made it look like it was filmed outside on a cloudy day to where there are no shadows. But just recently, there's a local bargain store that I shop at. They have these little lamps where you can simulate the lighting of a sunset in your own room. And the lighting in that is so point and direct that I've started using it to sort of make these very natural looking lightings for different sets to make it look like, oh, this shot was filmed like right when the sunset's happening or a little later in the day in the afternoon to where you can see the clear shadows on the ground or under the moonlight. So I'm definitely working my way into making the lighting of my films look more cinematic and more direct other than just a lot of flat lighting. Because that's kind of how it was for my last two films of the series of my trilogy I've been working on, using a lot of the flat lighting. But with the way that I have some of that lighting, you could make it direct. Because I'd also have a couple of lanterns that had more direct lighting that I could use. So I'm proud that I'm starting to up my budget a bit and making them look more unique and more spectacular, so to say. So, I mean, it's so cool to see as time goes by, there's always a moment where suddenly your skills get better when you didn't realize it could be.
Yeah, I definitely recommend to invest in learning new techniques about lighting your stop motion films. As a part of my education and the experience from film industry, I've actually specialized in as a gaffer's job in filmmaking, and
Like,
that's basically
sound? Is that sound?
gaffer. Gaffer is the head of department of lighting
Oh,
in
okay,
film.
okay.
Yeah, so I have like learned many aspects of cinematic lighting. I'm not nearly a professional, but that topic interests me a lot, and I have made quite a quite a many different roles in different films as a gaffer, and when I started using that knowledge on my stop motion videos, it creates a hell of a difference because you can create so much with lighting. You can establish a certain mood in your film without saying a word, because the first thing the audience sees, they already know if it's going to be a serious situation or a a a calm situation just by looking at the lightning. And you can also create a nice surprises with those different lighting techniques. And for an example, in Lego Assassination Attempt, the entire night scene was created just by using practical LED lights from Lighttailing company, and that created basically a very dark atmosphere. And yeah, lighting matters, plain and simply.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Definitely along the lines of lighting. I am a big sucker for natural lighting in movies. Like old 70s films where they wouldn't have all this really big studio lighting. They just film at a window on a bright sunny day and you just see the light of the sun pouring in, or when a character is driving around in a car at night and all you see illuminating them is like the street lamps and all the different neon signs. And that was really something I used for while I was working on that live action film I brought up earlier. That was filmed in a dark house where the only kind of lighting that I was using was all the natural light pouring in because the house I filmed in had a lot of windows to it. And the way the lighting looked, it gave this really nostalgic looking feeling because the film was about me overcoming grief from a loss of a loved one and like taking in those memories I shared through all the times I spent in that house. So relying on all that natural lighting really enhanced that kind of mood for the film. But it would really be rewarding to me if I started really investing in more of the big budgeting lighting that really creates all these different moods for scenes. But I think natural lighting itself for a lot of films is a good way to enhance a lot of moods. Like one film I can immediately give an example of is a movie that came out the year I was born called No Country for Old Men. Takes place in the state that I live in. It's a thriller crime film about a guy who takes money off of the crime scene of a drug deal gone wrong, and there's this psychopathic killer that's tracking him down to kill him. There is so much natural lighting in that movie. There's no music in it at all, so there's a lot of real life tension in those scenes, and I definitely recommend watching that movie.
Believe me or not, but No Country for Old Men is one of my favorite movies
Oh,
of all time.
sorry. I
Yeah,
I I assume since you're from Finland, you're not too associated with the Western culture films. So that's really cool that you know that movie as well.
and yes, that film, like when you remove all the cliche, uh, big sound effects or horror aspects and the music, you get a very bleak representation of real life and the psychopathic aspects of a human, and that film is so goddamn scary in that sense
Yeah.
because yeah, basically natural lightning. That film is a great example of how to use it effectively in effective way. Yes.
Mhm. I could sit here and talk about films a lot because there's two films that I've recently rewatched from the 70s. One of them was called Network, and one of them All the President's Men. Have you heard of those movies?
I haven't heard about that.
Okay, so they both came out in 1976, which the country turned 200 years old. Um, they're both different, but they're both really good films from 1976. Network is about an anchorman who gets fired from his job, and on TV he like announces that I will be announcing my retirement tonight. I will be quitting the show in 2 weeks, and I also just want to say, 1 week from now, I am going to kill myself right here on TV. I'm gonna blow my brains out right on the air. So the people in charge of the network, they're like freaking out, like, why would he say this on live TV? So they take him off the air, but then one of the producers immediately sees how much the ratings for the show went up as soon as he did that. So the movie is about them taking advantage of this guy, letting him rant about how life sucks on the air, and basically to the point where he starts exposing how corrupt the media industry is, how it's like lying to people and stuff. And the acting in that film is so phenomenal and so good. And also, just like No Country for Old Men, there is no soundtrack to it, so the whole movie is just enhanced by the acting, the over the top of very dramatic acting. And it's a funny movie, but it's also seriously dramatic at times, and it's got some really good big name actors in it, like Robert Duvall was also in it. But All the President's Men was completely different because it's basically a retelling of the Watergate incident here in the United States, where the Republicans broke into the Democratic headquarters in Washington, D.C., And turns out these Washington Post reporters, the newspaper reporters, they started exposing that the government under President Richard Nixon was involved in this break-in, and so the movie is about them exposing this whole ordeal. And both those films, even though they're completely different, they're just so good, and they're so much different from regular films. And I feel like just movies like that where it moves along from all the cliche, those are films that people should really just at least watch once to just appreciate that you can make a movie so many different ways. You don't have to stick with the norms of big studios and how they light their films, how they cast their movies, how they direct them. You can experiment with all different kinds of things that appeal to an audience.
Yeah, that's a great leverage for just using films as an art of an expression and using that as an argument against using AI films, because AI cannot generate the experiences which are very important part of filmmaking. You are telling stories of people with different ways of storytelling.
Not to mention, AI always uses what humans have already created to build their images off of. So, if you think about it, there is no originality at all with AI because they're constantly being fed previously created information. Whereas human films, they they come straight from the mind of an individual. They come up with new ideas that probably it's either been adapted from something old and just retold in a more unique way, or it's a completely original idea nobody's heard about before. And yeah, I think people really need to start appreciating how amazing of an art form humans are without the use of non-human intelligence.
Yes, I agree with that. AI can be used in many better ways, but when it comes to generative I think there needs to be a clear line that what can be made and should it be made with AI. I I I have a um, strict opinion that AI can't make art and it never will.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well because I've heard like stories of like there was one story I heard of a guy who entered into an AI photo contest using a real picture that they took. They ended up winning the competition, but then immediately disqualified after they found out this guy did not use AI for this photo. It was the real thing. That amuses me, but also I'm like, it's so sad that they kicked this guy out of the festival because he actually used his own creative thinking and not a machine.
Hmm.
And I prefer films about AI, not films created with AI. Especially films that more of show AI as the villain, like the HAL 9000 and 2001: A Space Odyssey, or the short story.
Terminator and Skynet is a great example about what AI can do in wrong hands, or where can it lead if it gets too smart.
Scary thing, we're only 3 years away from where the future setting of that movie takes place, 2029.
Yeah, we are very close.
Mm-hmm. So I hope people start getting their acts together and stop chasing the money with AI and just start thinking this could cause a lot of problems. This could cause people to lose jobs. This could cause. I mean, I'm already seeing it online. It's causing people to be very doubtful about what videos they're watching because, like, take the recent moon mission, for example, with the astronauts that flew around the moon. Everybody's out there saying that it's all AI, that they didn't actually go, they're using AI images to show their mission. And I just roll my eyes in my seat thinking, how can people be this manipulated by that? How much of the AI have they seen before they started seeing all these real life stuff, and people are starting to lose their perception of reality?
Yeah, that's the scariest part. People don't know anymore what's real and what's not because AI can create create such an realistic images and video that some people just don't know what to believe anymore. And yeah, that's just I agree. I've seen many conspiracy theories about Artemis 2 flight, and those are ridiculous. And the flat Earth people, they just
Mm-hmm.
went full bunkers about that situation. And even though the Artemis crew took photographs of Earth and the Moon, and they have the axis info about those photographs, what settings were used, and there's so many clear proof that they went they went around the moon and came back. There's so many arguments
I
that
even
supports
I
that,
even
but
sat and watched a splashdown yesterday, which it took like a full hour for them to get out of the capsule, and watching all that in real time, you can't see any moment where they switched out the capsule to like a prop that the astronauts were in from like the quote unquote movie set that they were on. You could see it
yeah,
happening in real time, and that's how you know they spent 10 days up in space. They actually went around the moon, and they're finally home. And I don't
yeah,
understand why people are still out there complaining about it. They're probably saying it's not real because they didn't actually sit down and watch it. They just saw clips of it
yeah,
online, and they just immediately think, well, it's faked in some way. I don't know why.
yeah. I also watched the splashdown live. It was 4 a.m. in Finland, but I wanted to see that because it's crazy to think that it's been 53 years since last Apollo mission. So we are really making a big history, and the way how successful the Artemis 2 program was, that creates so many new opportunities for space exploration and going beyond. And it's very great time to be alive and witness these historical moments. I just wish that with the current wars that are going on in Iran and Ukraine right now, and how the USA is pushing so much of their budget into war,
Mm-hmm.
that they could use the government could use that money in so many better things, like in space exploration, but they choose not.
Yeah, I'm conservative and I've started to lose faith in Donald Trump, but I'm not getting into that. But yeah, it's really sad to see that we've still got wars going on today when we could be pushing our money for more stuff, like especially helping out on Earth, like solving the hunger crisis, or even exploring space a bit more, seeing what potential there is out there. I want to thank the movie Project Hail Mary for giving me that curiosity about space exploration again. I've seen that movie like twice already.
I haven't seen that. I
Oh, you
really need
haven't?
to. I
Is
I haven't, but I really need to see that film. I heard so
is
many things, great
su-
things about it.
it is such a beautiful movie. It's really funny, and yeah, it's absolute cinema, as we'd say.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm going to book tickets for the next week. I'm going to see this movie totally,
All right. All right then. You just let me know what you thought of it.
definitely. I want to add one more thing about space movies in general. That my number one most favorite space movies, it has to be Interstellar. That's just so beautiful.
I mean,
And the Han,
it's
yeah,
scientifically accurate. It's so emotionally beautiful. The music in it is so amazing.
yeah. I've considered for a long time to create a stop motion video about Legos in space, but that's like my most interesting, the most two interesting things I want to combine is horror and space, because space is a hecking creepy place,
Mm-hmm.
and I love horror sci-fi films like Ridley Scott's The Alien is one of my number one horror films, and I want to do something similar, like a crew of Lego astronauts going on a for an example going to Mars, and there's something creepy Martians waiting for them there. It's basically
Yeah.
a very old idea. Many people have done it, but I want to create something similar because there are so many possibilities to create great videos about horror and space.
I actually have one concept of horror in space that I've been writing, and I might turn it into a live action film at some point, but really it's in development right now. Um, I was thinking of an analog horror series where there's just a small crew aboard this really massive ship, and they go into a cosmic super void where I've seen like images of like space telescopes taking photos of parts in space, and there's just a large gap in the middle of space where there's no stars, no nothing. So I thought, what if I made a concept off of that where people are exploring that and they're basically in the unknown. There's no stars around them, no kind of light whatsoever. They're just out in the middle of darkness. So I have written a good concept about it. I actually made a full universe about it, like the main space agency that funds it, what they're looking for in these voids, like any resources like rogue planets flying around in it. And there's also giant aliens in it.
Yeah,
So
that the great voids in space, they just crave for scary stories to tell. That's a very great concept to grasp on.
yeah, I actually haven't thought of that in a little while because I finished working on the script a couple months ago, but definitely something I want to work on in the future.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we're entering the 2 hour mark on this. Were there any questions you wanted to ask me about, like, my own work?
Um, at this very moment, I don't have any specific questions, but I'm really looking forward for your current project, The Demon of Old Andy Bridge.
Yeah,
Because I read the whole script, and it was it really captures my attention, because come on, cryptids are a they are very interesting, and the way how you combine Wendigo and these three main Lego minifigures in the story and the Goat Man, it it all blends together so seamlessly, and the, there's so many. It's great. It's great. I don't know how to express it in any other way. It's a very nice story, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
well, I really appreciate that. I'm really excited to see how this turns out as well. So far, I've worked on like the first 14 minutes of it so far. It is coming along really good. The lighting, the whole sound effects, and just the way that the sets look. Has been a bit of trial and error working on it, but we're coming along pretty well. And well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great to hear that.
Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see what other stuff you have in mind. The upcoming train catastrophe video definitely looks like a trip down memory lane, as well as a good remake and updated version of an older video that you've made. So I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah,
And
I just have to. Yeah, go ahead.
go, no, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that at this very moment, yeah, the train catastrophe is under its way, but like I mentioned, I have other things going on right now, so I think I'm able to publish train catastrophe this year, but after that, I don't know because the future is unknown. What is going to happen next? I want to work on the, like many people say, have asked me to do my Lego winter car video, but people have to understand that I just cannot publish or make and publish the video like that at any time. It needs to be winter time for that video to kind of make like an impact or something, because like my Lego summer car videos, those were made during the summertime because they fit in that time of the year. So I just can't make publish videos that doesn't quite fit in the current time. There needs to be some motivation when to publish the video.
Mm-hmm. I mean, same with my videos. Last couple of years, I've had lots of people asking me, like, can you make this video? Can you make that video? And they really need to understand that stop motion is such a very long and patient process that you can't just cook something up overnight and have it ready for them on a hot plate right then and there. It's going to look sloppy. Stuff like that, it takes time. It takes lots of pre-production. Then you have the full production and then post-production. Um, that's why all these other films in the trilogy I've been working on, I would start sometime in early or late spring, then spend the summer working on it, to where since they fit like the whole spooky vibes genre, then they're ready to be submitted in October so everybody can see them.
Nice, nice.
I mean, I've had plenty of instances where I've wanted to make a Halloween special back in like my older days on the channel, but me and my friend would come up with ideas for this in like September, and there'd be no time to actually work on them. But yeah, definitely takes a lot of time to do this stuff, and it's really good to give yourself a schedule on how to work on it and a timeline of how and when you're going to complete it. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm really loving how I'm getting so much real life experience from this. On if I want to make a big budget film in the future, then I'm starting to get that experience right now on what that whole process is going to look like.
yeah, great stop motions and Brickfilms. That's a great entryway of knowing how film industry works and how productions go forward. That that gives you a great insight in this industry.
But yeah. Well, that's about all the time I can give today. Thank you so much for joining this episode. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you from one animator to another. I mean, your videos have really inspired me a lot over the years, and you're kind of the reason why I started doing this, and actually getting to speak with you in person feels so rewarding, but also it's so pleasant to speak with somebody who shares the same interests and same like ideas as I do. So thank you so much for taking time to speak today.
Awesome! It was great to talk with another brick filmer, and I wish you the best with your upcoming projects and keep up the great work.
Thank you, and I wish you the best of luck as well. And with that,
Yes.
everybody, that concludes this episode of Hunter's Real World. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.